Hey boys, and welcome back to another Bleach video, and today we kind of have some exciting news. Now everything we are talking about, or mostly the second part of the video, is just speculation going off of the data mine stuff we do have right now. But before we do get into the more exciting news, let's quickly talk about the version 11.5 update, which did drop this morning. Now I wasn't expecting it like literally anything. They didn't announce anything in advance, so I wasn't expecting anything too big, but we did get a nice small quality of life update regarding the PvP situation. So 3 things have changed in PvP now. The first one being that you can now check out the opponent's team. No longer do you just see the team's leader. I think that's a very good welcoming addition for a lot of us, because now you know what team you are going against. You don't have to worry about any Drugums hiding in the back. And then they also, in addition to that, allowed us to actually check out the opponent's accessories and links, which I think is a very cool update, because you can see right now, I was actually checking out the person's team, and I saw they had a triple max transcended team with level 3 defense. I was like, nah, you're good. I'm gonna back off. I'm gonna go against someone else. Like, I think that's a very cool thing. It makes PP a bit easier now, because you aren't just relying up to RNG or random chance of who you are going up against. You now know what teams you can go against, and I think it makes overall PvP a lot easier now, which I think is a good thing. Secondly, they also changed how the bots work. Now, before, I think like a few months ago or maybe a month ago, they started to add some bots into PvP, mainly the lower leagues. Now, the last 3 seats are pretty much just full of bots. Now, that doesn't mean there's only bots in that category. It just means that whoever you go against now is going to be bots, which I think is a pretty welcoming addition for a lot of new players, because let's be honest, lads, PvP isn't that fun. But when you start the game, you don't know exactly how bad PvP is just yet, so you actually have fun doing it, and it does kind of ruin the experience when you have a bunch of sweaty teams in the lowest league of PvP, because a lot of us don't like playing PvP. So I think now, for a lot of new players, the fact that they only verse bots in the first 3 leagues is actually a pretty good update for them, and then they only start versing real players, quote-unquote real players, because you're still versing AI, but you are versing against real players teams once you get into 7th seat, and that's when you start unlocking, you know, extreme carp and stuff like that. So I think that's a pretty cool update. I don't think it really impacts anything too much, besides it just makes new players' life a lot easier. And the last thing to talk about is the fact that they changed the way we see the average teams of power now. So before it was called attack, and I think that was a very bad way of doing it, because for back in the day when the game first came out, average attack was very important, because you couldn't increase your characters like HP and stuff like that. It was mainly if you had the higher attack, you're pretty much gonna win. Now, with the way PP has changed over the years, there's a lot of ways now that attack doesn't really matter too much, especially with Transcendence now, where you can go against a team with full defense and they're going to have a lower average attack. And for new players, seeing that isn't really a good thing, because I've seen many people complain about it in my comments and on Reddit, where people are complaining that their average attack was higher, but they got completely clapped because they don't understand that, you know, maybe a team they were going against was going full stamina, full SP, or full defense. So now with this new power system, the way it says your team, I think it's a lot balanced. In a sense, now you know what you're up against. If you see someone that has a low attack team, then you're probably know that going for defense, and you can even check for yourself. So I think this new update actually made PvP a lot easier, and I think overall it was just a needed quality of life update. PvP has gotten a lot better over the last couple of months. It's still bad, but it has gotten better, you know, than it was a few months back, so I can't really complain too much. But that being said, lads, now let's talk about the upcoming status element and what that potentially means for the end of month characters. So what we do know so far is that there's a new status element coming to the game, and it is called EROSION. Now keep in mind that is the code name for it. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the final name of the new status element, because if you don't know, Lacerate, for example, is called Injury in the game's files. So EROSION is probably going to be a code name for this new upcoming status element. So what we know so far, and it's still iffy, we don't know the exact details of it, because obviously this is data mined information. This could very well change in the coming days, but let's go over what the post that Riddler did make. Shout out to Riddler and Sordex for giving us this information. So Riddler said it is another damage over time, so it's going to be similar to something like Burn, Poison, and Lacerate, not so much like Freeze, Weaken, and Paralysis. And then Riddler later said it seems to proc differently from other DLTs, likely more slowly. Proc rate on Poison and Burn is 6, rate for Lacerate is 4, rate for Erosion is 16. So this potentially means that it's going to be procking a lot slower. We don't know how long this is going to last for. Maybe it's going to proc like 2 times before it wears off, and the reason for that is because it very well could have an OP or somewhat OP effect when you do inflict it. So right here it says has 2 effects: either reduce healing effectiveness by 80% when inflicted, or restores 20% of damage dealt through DOT. The wording is vague and could go either way. So I'm more so leaning on the side that it's going to be restores 20% of the damage that you do when you inflict it. I think that's a lot better, because reducing healing isn't that important. I think, like, it doesn't make sense for it to be that. If it does, it's a terrible status augment, because who in PvE actually heals themselves? And is it really a problem that you have to inflict a status augment on it? I don't think so. In PvP, we do have characters that can heal themselves, but even then, it's very rarely, and I don't think this erosion status augment is going to mainly be designed for PvP, because we do have PvP skills like Vastal or Ichigo, where you can just outright negate it. So I'm more so leaning on the side that this new status augment is going to be restoring 20% of the damage that you do through DOT, and maybe it's only going to proc like 2 or 3 times during that like 5 or so seconds that you proc it, just to make it so it's a bit balanced. Now, I think that's a very cool new status augment if that is the case. We don't know if it's going to have any other side effects. Maybe it's going to lower their defense, maybe it's going to have extra effects, but for the most part, what it does look like is that if you do inflict it, it's pretty much going to be healing you. So it's a character that can potentially heal without having to waste a strong attack dedicated to healing. I think that's a very cool thing, and it opens up doors for a lot of new characters, and I think it's just a good thing. I don't think it's a bad status augment. This character, whoever might have it, potentially could have just had nothing, and it seems okay. It seems okay, and it potentially could be OP in Guild Quest and stuff like that, where, you know, depending on how much damage you do through that DOT, you could pretty much potentially just heal all your HP non-stop, and I think that's very cool. So that right there, lads, is pretty much all the information that we do know about this status augment. But what we do have, and shout out to Soldex for this, is actually an image of this upcoming status augment. So if you look at that image right there, and then we know for a fact that we're going to be getting 1,000 Year Blood right at the end of the month, and this is obviously being into the game's files right now because it's potentially coming out at the end of the month. What character do you think best fits that? It's not Asnot, it's not Giselle, that is easily PERNIDA. So I think, and that's probably the title of the video and the thumbnail, PERNIDA is going to be dropping at the end of the month. Now, this very well could be something like for Giselle or something like the Asnot, but I don't think that's the case. Honestly, I did think that when we ever got Asnot into the game, it added a new status augment, so this very well could be for him, but I think Asnot will probably just be given Weakening, and then I think someone like Giselle will probably give Lacerate, and then they potentially do more damage to Lacerate. That's something I could see. They very well might be coming out at the end of the month, because we do know that we are going to be getting a heart character, but at the same time, this new status augment to me pretty much confirms that PERNIDA is going to be dropping at the end of the month, because obviously PERNIDA's whole ability is using the nervous system. He has those like kind of vein looking things as his attacks, and that status augment right there is literally designed just for him, in my opinion. So that's the main point of this video. I think this right here is a premonition or a leak that we're potentially going to be getting PERNIDA at the end of the month, and that's kind of exciting. PERNIDA is not a stun rate that I'm most excited for, but I'm excited just to see how they're going to make him, because he's literally a walking hand. I'm very excited to see what his murder is going to look like, and you know I'm pulling for him if that is the case. So in the comments below, lads, let me know what you guys think about this. Do you agree with me? Do you think it's actually going to be for PERNIDA, or are you more so on the side that it's going to be for Asnot or Giselle? Because I know there are a few people out there that are thinking that, and that very well could be the case, but for me, I'm more so leaning on the side that this status augment right here is clearly designed for someone like PERNIDA, and that image pretty much matches his abilities, and I can't wait to see what end of the month is going to bring. We finally have another 1,000 Year Blood banner. I know we've had like 1,000 Year Blood banners back to back for the last couple months at the end of 2020, but it still feels, the game feels a bit empty now that we haven't had a 1,000 Year Blood banner since the end of December. So it's quite crazy to think about that it's been that long. The game has been a tad bit boring in terms of character releases, so I'm excited to see what end of the month is going to bring, and you know we're obviously going to be making videos on those characters when they do drop. So that being said, lads, hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, smash the button, check out good stuff, and again, let me know what your opinions are in the comments below about this new status augment. And that being said, I'll see you lads in the next one. Peace.